Yo, it's your boy TTK and welcome back to another video. Hopefully you guys have had a good day. Today is part one of a two-part discussion video series where I discuss the best and worst Pokemon for every type in Gen 9 Monotype. If you guys enjoy this sort of discussion videos for Monotype or enjoy some Draft League content, consider subscribing to the channel, join the kingdom. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I appreciate all the support that I've been seeing recently on my videos and subscriber count. We're almost at 400 subscribers, so keep up the support, guys. Much appreciated. But either way, let's not waste any time. This is part one, so obviously there's 18 types, so I can just obviously divide 18 into two parts. So we're going to be going over 9 types today, and let's start off in alphabetical order with Bug. Now Bug, the best Pokemon on Bug is obviously Volcarona. I don't think that anyone will ever dispute this fact. Obviously on Bug you have two S-tier Pokemon, which is Cleaver and Volcarona, but Volcarona is better than Cleaver as an overall Pokemon. Volcarona does a whole lot, and I say it does a whole lot, but it really only has one thing, which is setting up Quiver Dance and killing everything in you know, a few hits. Now it's been doing the same thing since Generation 5. Nothing will really change for Volcarona unless there's a Super Volcarona or Mega Volcarona that comes out. I don't think any other Bug Pokemon even comes close to even beating Volcarona in terms of being the #1 most viable Pokemon on the Bug typing. You've had pretty close Pokemon come through, like Mega Sizzle, which is a behemoth of a Pokemon, and also things like Mega Sizzle, but Volcarona has stayed consistent throughout the generations, and you know, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. His typing is very useful for Bug, seeing how, you know, Steel is a very common defensive typing, and you know, Volcarona has the fire typing to hit those super effectively. In previous gens it had, you know, hidden power ground to get past Heatran. Doesn't have that anymore, and obviously Terra is banned in Monotype, but you know, you have other teammates to try your best to deal with Heatran. You know, you have CC on Cleaver, Sizzle, you have Lockix first impression with well, to be fair, Heatran times 4 resist Bug, so that's not really too helpful. We still have like things like Banded Lockix doing good damage to Heatran with a knockoff as well, and also you have Araquanid as well to hit that thing super effectively. So you have teammates to handle the Heatran as well. So like Volcarona just complements Bug very well because Fire is a very strong offensive type, and which, you know, makes up for the fact that Bug is resisted by 7 typings. Now on the other hand, the worst Bug type in my opinion, going through the list, and to be fair, I've tried most of these Pokemon, and like, even I don't have to experiment with certain mons to tell you how bad they are, but it's pretty much a toss-up between Ariados and Kricketune, and I'm kind of leaning towards Kricketune in my opinion, because at least Ariados has a secondary type in which could come into play sometimes. I think it's only one of 2 mons on the type that can use Toxic Spikes, the other one being Fortress, so at least Ariados has a specified niche if you're already running Sizzle, which is like another Bug Steel type Pokemon. Kricketune doesn't really have that. Kricketune only has webs, and you know, how many other Pokemon on the type have webs? You have Araquanid, you have Leavanny, you have Masquerain, you have what else? Galvantula. Like, Kricketune is just outclassed in the webs department by pretty much everything else that gets webs. At least Ariados has webs and also has T-Spikes and some other stuff. Like, both are really, really bad, but you know, I think Ariados definitely has an edge over Kricketune. And like, it's a shame about Kricketune because obviously he's a Route 1 Bug, so it's never really gonna ever really be that good of a Pokemon, but at least its 85 attack stat is actually somewhat respectable, especially when you have boosting options, and Technician is a pretty cool ability to have because you have moves like Pounce, which obviously Technician boosted, but Kricketune just can't survive in Monotype, which is basically like a similar power level to OU, where, you know, Kricketune is a historical ZU Pokemon and isn't even good in ZU or SU, so you know, obviously you know, Kricketune is an issue there for sure. Moving on to dark types, we have Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao is obviously the best dark type, and it's probably going to be the best ice type when we get to that in you know, part 2 of the video, because I'm not going to be covering ice this video. But yeah, that really need to explain why Chien-Pao is the best dark Pokemon if you compare it to the rest of its companions. Pretty much the 3rd fastest Pokemon in the tier, just speed time with Flutter Mane, and only being slower than Zamazenta and Dragapult. You know, Hisuian Electro does not count, but you know, 3rd fastest Pokemon in the tier. its ability basically means it's hitting with 25% increased damage for no reason, just because, you know, it gets that. Obviously, it has access to Swords Dance. It just does a lot of damage. Its stabs are very, very annoying to switch into. If anyone even remembers how strong Weavile was in SSOU, Weavile in SS Gen 8 in general was so strong, it was literally like a B+ mon in Ubers, just because its stabs were insane. And to be fair, like, Weavile stabs and like the overall meta of SS Ubers benefited it greatly, because Evolta was a common mon, Calyrex Ice, Shadow Rider was a very common mon. There was just a lot of mons that Weavile could hit super effectively in Ubers, but again, like, the dual style combination of Dark and Ice is just pretty much unresisted by a single type, and only a few Pokemon in general have the dual typing combination to even resist Chien-Pao's onslaught. And then, yeah, it's been a very controversial Pokemon ever since it came out, you know, at the start of the gen, and a lot of people wanted a Chien-Pao suspect test in Gen 9 Monotype, because frankly, not enough types have enough counterplay for Chien-Pao. Like, Grass, fair enough, Grass is weak to Ice, but pretty much Dark always would just, like, beat Ice, like, it would beat Grass pretty badly, because of the fact that, you know, like, you just click Icicle Crash against the Grass types and they just all drop, and like Ice Shard pretty much just kills any Grass type from like 80%, so it's very hard to handle this mon defensively, and yeah, that's why it's the best mon on Dark. On the other hand, we go to the opposite side of the spectrum, where it's just like really bad. Like, we'll get into like really on mon territory, and Mightyena is clearly just the worst fully evolved Dark type. You look at the rest of ZU mons, which obviously Mightyena is obviously a ZU Pokemon, and all of these guys have had, you know, a semblance of competitive, you know, success over the last like few generations, or even things like Mabostiff. Mabostiff is just mega Mightyena. It has higher attack, higher speed, a really good ability in stakeout as well, so it just ends up doing a lot of damage. But Mightyena still to this day doesn't have knockoff. Like, why doesn't this mon get knockoff? Like, please give this one something. Like, fair enough, it has a boosting option in Howl, but obviously Howl is a +1 boost to 90 attack. Like, wow, that's really going to be hitting really, really hard. But yeah, Mightyena just has nothing going for it. Even in the most limited meta of, you know, SV Monotype, back in pre-home meta, Mightyena, well, no, to be fair, Mightyena wasn't, it was in DLC 1, but like, if it was even back then when we hardly had anything, Mightyena would still be the worst Pokemon. Like, it's actually crazy. It's honestly one of the worst fully evolved Pokemon of all time, and like, it's very yeah, it's hard to justify this mon's existence. It's just that bad. There's not much else I can really say. Like, you want to use Mightyena, use Mabostiff, and even then, Mabostiff is not a good mon either. So, like, what can I say? Alright, now we're on to the, you know, #1 type in the metagame right now, Dragon. Now, who am I going to say is the best Dragon type? I'm going to have to say Baxcalibur. This mon needs to get banned ASAP, and probably this video is going to be pretty outdated in the next month or so, because of the fact that we're probably getting a Bax suspect test, and this mon is certainly getting banned. Now, why did I say Bax is the best Dragon type in the metagame? I say that because of the fact that it's just offensively really strong. Like I said with Chien-Pao, this is also just another mon that hits way too hard and pretty much has no defensive counterplay, except for the fact that Chien-Pao can't boost its speed, but Bax can. Bax can easily run a Dragon Dance set with heavy duty boots. It's very hard to take down, and its ability is just a free, you know, like, it's such a good ability because it can't get burned. Like, physical attackers' biggest issue is, you know, Intimidate and also burn half in their base power moves of all physical moves. But Bax doesn't have to worry about that. Have you seen the attack stat? 145 attack. It's just very hard to switch into this Pokemon. It also has SD sets, which pretty much just demolish, like, slower builds as well, which, you know, isn't really good for meta diversity, because you're always going to have to out-offense a Baxcalibur in order to check it reliably, because the defensive threats don't really harm this one too much. Its bulk is also insane for, you know, how much damage it does. 115 HP, 92 defense, 86 special defense. This is really good bulk for, you know, an offensive Pokemon, and the only thing that really holds back is its Ice defensive typing, which pretty much offers it no useful resistances. And obviously it's a Dragon type as well, so it does get elemental resistance and loses the fire resistance, but still having a water, grass, electric immunity is also really, really strong for Bax as well. But is rock weakness as well. But otherwise, most of the time you're running heavy duty boots, so stealth rock doesn't really matter, and then you kind of just set up and win the game. Like, yeah, ban backs. Like, anyone that's played this metagame knows that backs is a menace to face, and like, there's only a few types that even can handle backs, and I would say fighting kind of keeps it in check, but at the same time, you know, make sure that Iron Hands is chipped, back sets up 1DD, and I think the game is just a 1 from there, to be honest. So yeah, Bax is the best dragon type in SV monotype, in my opinion, but not for long though, because it's going to get banned. You know, we go down to the worst though, and I probably have to say Appleton, and Appleton is a sad existence. The fact that Diplin, which isn't even fully evolved, you know, is also like, it's like a middle evolution as well. Like, Appleton has middle evolution stats, but isn't a middle evolution. And yeah, Hydrapple exists, Flapple exists. Like, Hydrapple is a decent pick. Flapple again is in the trenches as well, but is not worse than Appleton. Like, what am I using this for in monotype exactly that Hydrapple doesn't do better? Like, it's just directly outclassed, and that's just a sad existence to be living as in SV monotype, because at least you could say, oh, Hydrapple is a UU Pokemon, you know, so maybe I'll find a tier where Appleton can shine, you know. But then you get to you get to ZU, for example, and you're like, oh, Appleton still isn't doing anything here. But it does have a chance. In monotype, that just doesn't exist, because you're just better off using a better Pokemon because of the much higher power level compared to the lower tiers. So yeah, what does Appleton do? Like, realistically, doesn't do anything. Like, that's the bottom line. It doesn't really do anything. Its signature move is really cool, but 30 speed, it does have good bulk, but again, is outclassed by Hydrapple now because that mon has Regenerator. Pretty done deal with Appleton, unfortunately. I was thinking Altaria first when I was about to make this video, but I was like, even Altaria has a niche, bro. Like, I would use Altaria. That mon has defog, you know. Like, Dragon, if you want to use removal on Dragon, it might be bad, but at least it has a designated niche. Appleton does not have that at all. Alright, onto Electric, which I still consider to be the worst type in the metagame at the moment. Yeah, the best one is definitely Iron Hands. Now, I was thinking Raging Bolt, but honestly, Iron Hands has been doing the Lord's work for this typing since, you know, the game came out. Very bulky Pokemon, does a lot of damage. Iron Hands does not take damage from anything. Like, it's honestly so good for the typing, because Electric's issue is that Ground is good, and pretty much every other typing that's good in the metagame just, like, dogs on it. But at the same time, Iron Hands has enough bulk to utilize a pretty good set of Swords Dance, Drain Punch or CC, depend. Just run Fighting Stab, and then you have Ice Punch and Thunder Punch respectively. You know, this can actually threaten Ground quite easily, because you're so bulky with a Shuka Berry that you're not going to take any damage from any Earthquakes. Something like Excadrill, which is coming to revenge kill you with like Banded EQ, you're just going to recover a good amount of your HP back because of Drain Punch. Then Ice Punch hits Clodsire, hits Tinglu. Well, to be fair, you're Drain Punching Tinglu, but you're also hitting, you know, things like Hippowdon as well and Gliscor, and that's like the really important thing as well. And like, Electric also really struggles surprisingly against Flying, which a lot of, you know, mono mainers will probably thinking Electric has a type advantage, how does it struggle? Well, Gliscor kind of just does a lot versus the type, also Landorus I or Landorus T, and you know, you're lacking ice coverage on the typing. Iron Hands basically covers that for you, so it's such a pivotal piece of this typing for it to even function remotely, even though it's not the best typing in the metagame by a long shot. But yeah, just having Iron Hands on your team, it's basically a necessity, and yeah, that's why it's one of the best mons on the type. On the other side of the spectrum, the worst mons are basically just Plus and Mining. I don't think anyone expected any other answers. Yeah, they're basically the same mon. You know, Plusle has higher special attack, Minun has higher special defense, I'm pretty sure. It has higher defenses and lower offenses, and Plusle has higher offenses and lower defenses. Yeah, these mons have never been good in any tier. Well, let me not say that. ADVPU likes Minun, but and you know, DPPSU likes Plusle and even Bandit. But you know, for the people that want to know about, in inverted commas, real tiers, these guys have never been good in any real tiers. So yeah, pretty obvious why. Really low stats, even though they have Nasty Plot to boost their damage output. Like, I probably have to say Minun's worse, because like a defensive electric type with 60 HP and 50 defense. Yeah, I'm really gonna run a defensive electric type. Yeah, so I'll give Plus with the benefit of the doubt. You know, you have nasty plot, and you know, you could actually do some decent damage with that. But Minun is weaker for higher bulk, which doesn't matter in the long run. So yeah, easily Minun for sure. All right, up next we got Fairy, guys, and yeah, Fluttermane, best Fairy on the type. Do I really need to say anything else? It's basically the Qianpao treatment: high stats, high speed, high special attack, high damage output. What can I say? Yeah, Fluttermane, just like the stabs are insane. Like if you look at the Pokemon that resist Ghost Fairy, the only Pokemon that resist Ghost Fairy are like Pyro. Like it's insane. Like, obviously, I don't think Fluttermane's a ban-worthy Pokemon in SV Monotype. A lot of people do share that sentiment that Fluttermane isn't ban-worthy, but you also have the side that really hate this thing. So yeah, what holds back Fluttermane is obviously its really low defense stat. Even its low HP stat lets it down sometimes against like some like stronger special attackers, but at the same time, like the average special attacker ain't taking out Fluttermane in one hit that easily. But on the defense side, yeah, Fluttermane is dropping to pretty much every physical move. But you know, that's never really stopped Fluttermane. Fairy has pretty good support for it with Klefki screens, so you can actually take one hit of a physical attack with Reflect Up. And otherwise than that, like even on the special side, once you get a light screen up, special attacks also aren't doing anything to Fluttermane. And it's really just been a choice specs angle for most of the generation, even though it has like some other sets like heavy duty boots, choice scarf. Like choice specs is just the like tried and true set that you want to be running on Fluttermane. It just has a massive damage output, and it can really customize itself to, you know, just demolish any type that it really wants to. If you really are concerned about flying, then you can run the combination of T-Bolt and Power Gem. You know, you can cover, you know, Gliscor, Corviknight, all of those guys. You can run, if you're worried about poison, which again isn't really particularly in the best spot right now, you can run Psy Shock, and you know, Clodsire is just getting folded by that as well. So yeah, Fluttermane easily the best Pokemon on Fairy. I don't think anything remotely comes close. Like Iron Valiant, Enamorus, all solid Pokemon. Klefki, probably the best defensive Pokemon on the type. But yeah, Fluttermane's overall influence on the metagame at large definitely makes it the best Fairy type. Now onto the worst Fairy type. Again, I don't think it was a particularly hard guess to decide what was the worst Fairy type. Wigglytuff, again, has never really been good in any real tiers. But yeah. Wigglytuff just suffers from, you know, being outclassed by Clefable syndrome, and even before Clef became this behemoth of a Pokemon, it really started with Gen 4 Magic Guard. But even before that, Wigglytuff had nothing going for it whatsoever. At least you can say in Gen 1 and Gen 2, you know, maxed out EVs meant that this thing was actually bulky. Now you get to the Gen 3 Plus and you're like, Wigglytuff has no bulk at all, because you invest in one stat, but the other stat is still so low that that HP stat doesn't even matter in the long run. And it's a shame though, because Wigglytuff does have quite a colorful move pool, at least in earlier generations. Had Teleport, still has Wish coming off of its high HP stat, good special coverage as well. Like, it's basically Clef, but just really worse. Like your normal type, so you trade one of Fairy's best, you know, resistances and fighting for neutrality, which, you know, Wigglytuff trying to switch into a CC from remotely anything with an attack stat with 45 defense. Yeah, good luck with that, man. Like, it's just a liability in most cases to run this Pokemon in the monotype metagame. And yeah, if you do want to try and run this, I would advise running the choice specs, because trying to run this one defensively is not going to work out for you. At least you can catch out something with some of your special coverage moves, but again, you don't even get Moonblast, so why do I want to use this? Wait, does it not get Dazzling Gleam? What? There's no way. Bro, it's actually over for this Pokemon. It's in usually useless moves. Your best stab option on the special side for Fairy type moves. Oh, well, to be fair, you have a Lurin Voice now, which, you know, could be a substitute. But at the same time, yeah, no, that's just crazy, man. Just crazy. Yeah, Wigglytuff is in the trenches, guys. It's in the trenches for sure. All right, on to fighting, and yeah, I'm probably gonna say Zamazenta. What can I really say about Zamazenta that hasn't already been said, it's probably one of the best win cons that we have in the current meta game right now, because you can just click iron defense body press and it's just very hard for a lot of types to handle that. Like, fighting is so strong offensively, like you really have to understand the type dynamics in monotype. For example, think of a type like fighting, which hits 5 of the 18 types super effectively, and only fairy, ghost, flying and psychic resist fighting, which you could say 5 for 4, 5 strong types that you're strong against versus 4 types that resist you. But like, yeah, the other types are hit neutrally as well, so that just leaves 9 types that are hitting neutrally. So Zamazenta hits very, very hard, especially when it's boosting with iron defense and body press afterwards. It's also the second fastest mon in the tier, just behind Dragapult, so it's very hard to try and revenge kill this mon at the same time as well, because it's gonna outspeed most of your offensive threats. Now Zamazenta is like one of the few reasons why fighting still has a decent shot versus fairy, because if you're running a choice banded set, which again is a very disastrous set to try and switch into because it hits very, very hard, you know, fairy types are folding to heavy slam because this thing is also fat as hell. So you know, heavy slam ends up being 120 base power against most targets, and yeah, if you've done the damage numbers, doubling 120 base power is very, very strong. So yeah, Zamazenta is definitely up there. I was also considering mons like Great Tusk, but I feel like, or even Sneasler, for example. But I just think Zamazenta, being a mon that people consider to be ban worthy, definitely has to make it the top dog of the fighting type. I said top dog for it plays into myself, bro. Like I am him. I'm him. Top dog, and he's a dog. Yeah, nah. No one's like me, man. No one's like me. Anyway, on to the worst fighting types. We got definitely have to say Crabominable. I don't think I would ever consider, to be fair, anything in PU and below I'm probably not considering for this typing, I'll be honest. But you know, like, this is just even in a worse situation, I feel, because like it does hit hard, but it's also 43 speed. Like, you have enough hard hitters on the type where Crabominable is never an option at all. Ice fighting also is not like helping fighting at all defensively whatsoever, and you just end up having too many weaknesses to even try and make this mon work. I don't even know if fighting has trick room. Like, if fighting had access to trick room, maybe I'd give it a shot. Medicham and Gallade, yeah, not the best options. Again, it would probably just be a super meme set, but yeah, Crabominable is definitely the worst fully evolved fighting type. I would even say it's probably the worst fighting type to run. Like, I would probably even rather run Combusken. At least I could kind of pull off a mini Blazer can kind of sweep, even though Combusken is still slow after 2 boosts. But that's besides the point. But yeah, Crabominable is just awful. Not much else I can really say about this mon. It's a shame though, because ice fighting is very disgusting offensively, and we all know the ice fighting coverage goes crazy. If you played with Calyrex Ice Rider in Uber's formats, you know Glacial Lance plus CC is some disgusting combination, especially when you have stab on it as well. Especially with Iron Fist, you get you have Ice Hammer, which is boosted by Iron Fist. You have Drain Punch, which is boosted by Iron Fist with a no, I wasn't even gonna say decent. This is a very solid attack stat, but you know, Crabominable was just never meant to succeed with a stat distribution like this. So you know, it's unfortunate. Alright, on to Fire now, and it's a pretty hard option for me because part of me wants to say Gouge and Fire very easily, but at the same time, Ogerpon, Half Flame, like, both these guys are just very strong offensive threats that are very hard to switch into. A lot of people rate Fire highly in the current meta game because outside of Dragon, Fire is just very hard to handle defensively, because you just kind of get up Sun, and then you have an Ogerpon Half Flame, and then you just add the modifiers on from the Mask and the Sun and the Stab, and you just kind of end up Oko and everything. You know, like, it tends to happen when you have your Sun Fire type attacks boosted by weather. You know, it's just one of them things. And again, it's very hard to stop this mon. Unaware doesn't affect it if it's SD, so it's very hard to stop it once it starts sweeping. But the thing is that I probably have to lean towards Gouge and Fire is the fact that Ogerpon Half Flame is prone to Stealth Rocks. It can't run heavy D2 boots, so that means that it's always going to be prone to hazards, and also it can't run a Choice Scarf. And while 110 speed is kind of fast, it's not that fast, you know. Again, like, it's fast, but it's not fast. Versus Gouge and Fire, which is able to afford to run heavy D2 boots to completely, you know, get rid of its hazard issue, sets up Dragon Dance, and is bulky enough to carry it out. Because have you seen these defensive stats? 105 HP, 121 defense, 93 special defense with reliable recovery? Like, what? How do you even handle this Pokemon? And obviously, just got suspect test done for it, which did not get banned, and a lot of people are very angry about that one, I'll be honest. But yeah, I definitely have to say Gouging Fire is the best fire type. Yeah, just because of these attributes. You know, just it also does a huge amount of damage. Almost, it probably does more damage than Ogerpon Halfling, because Proto boosting it to 1.3, Flare Blitz doing you know, extra damage. Slightly lower attack stat, but I think Proto makes up for it anyway, and you can get to you know, +3, +4 pretty easily, I feel. So yeah, Gouging Fire is definitely up there. In terms of the worst fire type, I definitely have to put down Flareon. Flareon has never been good, and like people are probably thinking, why am I not putting Macargo here? And I'm like, you really think Macargo is worse than Flareon? At least Macargo can set up and will Shell Smash, and it's still slow as hell. But you know, what does Flareon do? Why am I using Flareon? Like, am I using it as a Spadef wall? Like, do I want to use it as a Spadef wall? Not really. Like, it has a pretty good Spadef stat, don't get me wrong, but 65 HP doesn't do any favors. Its physical bulk is also just pretty bad, and like, if you want a Spadef like firewall, there's Heatran, bros. There's Heatran, you know, has a steel typing, is very, very good. You're neutral to rock. Why would I want to use Flareon as a Spadef tank? You have Spadef Skeletor, you have Spadef Torkoal. Fuck it, you're gonna run Assault Vest Entei. Like, why am I using Flareon, bros? Like, it's just, yeah, Flareon sucks. And if you want to buff Flareon, give him more speed, and then we're talking, you know. Guts, Facade, Flare Blitz does a lot of damage. I think we'll have something going on there if it had like 100 base speed, but 65 does not cut it in the Gen 9 economy. To be honest, 65 speed never cut at all for Flareon, so you know, it just lives a pretty sad existence of being a mediocre Pokemon and probably the worst evolution. So yeah, Flareon's been taking L since generation 2 or 3, to be honest. Alright, we're on to Flying, and Flying is probably a really hard one for me, because I just feel like Flying is a part, there's no one Pokemon that I can say stands out from the rest from Flying, because it's all like a interconnected system, you know. Flying is like a computer. Like, you have the CPU, you have the GPU, you have the RAM, and you have the HDD or SSD. Like, everything has to come together to get the system that you have known as Flying. But one I can say that probably stands out from the rest, or two mons to be honest, I have to say, Skarmory and Gliscor. I think these mons are definitely la creme de la creme of Flying teams, just because Gliscor's an annoying little guy, you know. Like, bro just clicks Protect because it doesn't have Roost anymore, so you kind of need to activate his Poison Heal like guaranteed on the first turn, and then you Toxic everything, you set up Spikes, or you let Skarmory do that, it doesn't really matter, and then like you have Knockoff Earthquake, and you're just an annoying guy. Like, Gliscor's a very hard Pokemon to break, and like, while you probably see 75 HP as nothing that's particularly impressive, it does have a pretty good defense stat of 125, and then like an average Spadef stat of 75, but Gliscor can make it work, especially if you invest like a lot into its special defense. It still ends up being a pretty decent Fizz Def wall as well. But again, you have Skarmory to handle that, you know. Skarmory has a massive defense stat, 140 base defense, and while you also see the HP stat, and like, it's kind of disappointing, 148 defense just makes up for that completely. So your HP stat doesn't really come into clutch too much, I would say. And yeah, Skarmory's just an annoying guy, and like, I would say that Skarmory made Corviknight unemployed. Like, you know, all this one has to do is click Spikes, you click Iron Defense, you click Body Press, and you have Roost. And this is all you have to do with Skarmory. Like, it's such an easy thing for this mon to do. It comes in on pretty much every physical attack in the tier. Even Chien-Pao doesn't take out Skarmory. Like, that's how bulky Skarmory is. Like, it's not afraid of Chien-Pao, and obviously can threaten a lot of Pokemon like King Gambit, Chien-Pao, Body Press, especially when it has an Iron Defense up. Like, it gets to I believe 416 defense if I fully max it out. Yeah, so 416, double that, you get 832, and you're hitting very hard with Body Press. And like, Skarmory's just definitely a key component of Flying teams right now. And yeah, like, if Skarmory didn't come out, I'd probably have to include Corviknight and Gliscor on this list. But yeah, I just think Skarmory does a whole lot for the type, and yeah, it's just a very strong Pokemon in general. Now, the worst Flying type might shock you guys for what I say as my answer. Some of you are probably going to say, oh, this guy's going to choose Delibird, you know, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm not choosing Delibird, bros. I'm choosing Noctowl, bros. Like, what's Noctowl doing? I'll be honest, like, Noctowl is not a real Pokemon. I can't lie. Like, Noctowl has not done anything like ever, to be honest. Like, it got banned from PU in Gen 8 once upon a time in the early game meta, but you know, like that's his highlight, you know. But why do I say Noctowl is worse than Delibird? Now, Delibird has a funny little thing called Hustle Choice Band, and like, I can't lie, Delibird does damage. Like, it might be times full weak to rocks, but just keep rocks off, bro. Like, if you can't do that, it's a skill issue. But yeah, Noctowl has never really been an impressive Pokemon outside of that. You know, it has nasty plot hurricane tinted lens, and like, you could probably make a case that I'm probably just like coping by saying Noctowl is worse than Delibird, but Delibird is faster, can hit on the physical side really, really hard, but Noctowl, even after a boost, just doesn't really do enough damage. And if you want to run a defensive bird, like, I probably would have recommended a defensive Noctowl if you know, you had Toxic, for example, but you don't have Toxic, and yeah, as a normal flying type, you're just outclassed by even Braviary and Staraptor. So yeah, that's why, like, because no one's taking Delibird's niche of being a hustle choice band Trollmon. Like, no one's taking that from Delibird. But Noctowl, you have guys younger than you taking your job. You're an old man. Like, you're not doing shit no more, bro. But yeah, Noctowl is definitely the worst flying type in Gen 9 monotype, in my opinion. Alright, and we've hit the 9th type of this video before we end it off. You know, we have Ghost left now. And surprise, surprise, I'm going to have to say Fluttermane is the best Ghost type, but that's not interesting. So I'm going to speak about the second best Ghost type. And to be honest, I was struggling between Dragapult and Goldengo, and it's hard because both of these are definitely vital pieces for the type, in my opinion. Fuck it, I'm going to speak about Dragapult and Goldengo. What isn't there that hasn't already been said about Goldengo? Has probably the most broken ability that has ever been conceived in Pokemon. Who thought this was a good idea? Who thought that immunity to all status moves was a good idea? Yeah, it's not a good idea because you can't defog it. You can't, well, to be fair, it's a steel type, so you want Toxicking anyway. You're not burning it, you're not T-waving it, you're not taunting it, you're not encoring it. Pretty much every status move versus Goldengo does not work. And yeah, it just makes Ghost a pretty solid typing. Well, not solid. I think Ghost is in a good position. It's not solid, but it's in a good position. But yeah, you could arguably just spike stack Ghost, and you know, Rapid Spin doesn't work on them, which a lot of types have to rely on Rapid Spin for removal. Ghost types are immune to that. Goldengo, one of the few Pokemon that can block Defog, or the only one that can block Defog, and yeah, you're just not getting off the hazards. Like, yeah, Goldengo perpetuates a play style which Ghost does appreciate, depending on how you build the team, especially if you go like Brambleghast Spikes or some Froslass HO lead sort of shit that you're running. And Dragon Ball, on the other hand, is just the fastest one in the meta game, so it's hard for me not to talk about it, especially the fact that, you know, it has a lot of variety of sets that can run on Ghost, and they can pretty much adapt to any matchup that it really wants to. Like, you have Will-O-Wisp Hex, which pretty much cripples every physical attacker, and like, Dragapult isn't frail by any means. Like, it's not bulky, but it's also not too frail for a Ghost type, especially. Like, Ghost types tend to have really low HP stats, like e.g. Fluttermane, base 55. They don't typically get above 60 or even 70, but Dragon Ball has 88, so you can get away with going max HP a lot of the time. Run Will-O-Wisp, you know, Hex, T-Wave. It's just a very annoying Pokemon. It also has like underrated sets like Choice Band, and I think in terms of its overall versatility, I don't think any other Pokemon on Ghost does what Dragapult does. Well, obviously Fluttermane is, you know, the top dog of Ghost because it's Fluttermane, for crying out loud, but Dragapult and Goldengo, you know, are definitely in the top 3 conversation. Now, the worst Ghost, on the other hand, people are waiting for me to say Bayonet. I know you're waiting for me to say Bayonet. It's not Bayonet, it's Dusknoir. Now, why do I say Dusknoir is worse than Bayonet? Bayonet got SD now, so it's already a better offensive Pokemon than Dusknoir has ever been throughout his entire career. Like, if Dusknoir had like something, like if Dusknoir could use like the non-ghost version of Curse, I would say it would actually be decent. But yeah, it doesn't have that. It's stuck with the one that cuts your HP in half. But you know, it's a bulky, I say bulky in inverted commas, it's not bulky. 45 HP is a fraud. You don't even get above 200 HP, you're not bulky. Dusclops also does a better job than you. Like, Dusknoir, ever since Eviolite was introduced, has not lived a semblance of viability in a tier where Dust Clops is also legal. If I wanted to use a bulky ghost type right now, which is also passive as hell, I'm still just going to click Dust Clops. If I want an offensive ghost type, I'm using pretty much everything else that isn't RU and below. But even then, Bayonet has SD, it has Poltergeist. This thing has Poltergeist back, but you know, lower attack stat, lower speed, no SD. What can I say? Dust Noir is the worst ghost type. And that is it for part 1, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and yeah, I hope you're excited to see part 2, because I have a lot more to say about some of these Pokemon for sure. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.